about to get our show started here on Retirement Compass Radio Show. The older I get, the earlier it gets late. That's how I feel. And plus, we had the time change and everything like that, fellas. All right, welcome everybody to Retirement Compass Radio Show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. We have Mr. Gove, Jeff Gove from the Kearney office, and John Ternus from the Grand Island office. How are you both?
Doing good. How are you, Jackie?
Great. Good to meet you, John. It's so fun to have you.
Yeah, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh,
Finally, he called.
Finally you called. It's great to see you. Nice to have you. Do you have the same dry sense of humor as Mr. Gove?
Probably. Most likely, I think I do.
Yeah.
It is dry and, yeah.
I feel like the sense of humor is part of the interview process, isn't it?
Well, I don't know. Maybe. You know, we've had some interesting interviews over the years.
Have you?
You know, there was one of the last ones. Hopefully, he's not listening. That would be awkward. But it was ask a question, and 45 minutes later, I couldn't even remember what the question was. And then he had a French dip, and he drank the au jus sauce.
Okay, that's too much. Did you tell Tim about this?
Tim was there. We all just kind of watched. We're like, nope, he's not going to do it. And he did it.
Drinking the au jus.
No offense to anybody out there that drinks the au jus sauce. It is tasty.
I would drink the juice in advance, but not after dipping.
Just more carbs with the...
Right, more carbs, because then you have little
too, maybe.
Pieces of bread in there, crying out loud. Well, beyond our finances here in our retirement years, we do need to think about not sitting at home and turning into a mushroom on the couch, right? You got to have something to live for, somebody who's going to be relying on you. Mm-hmm. So beyond the financial plan, I thought we could start the show today with some, not just tax strategies and income projections, but actually what happens emotionally. How do you talk to people about this, John, when they come to meet with you? Do you ask them, is this part of your screening process to see if you want to work with them?
What I like to do is ask them to kind of visualize what retirement's going to look like for them, because some of them just think, I'm just done with my job. I'm going to retire and ride off into the sunset. But you have to mentally prepare for that. And it's not just one day I go to work, the next day I'm retired. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, maybe if you're going to play pickleball or you're going to RV across the country, you should maybe step into that a little bit. Maybe take some weekend trips or participate in a few pickleball tournaments, whatever it may be for you. But whatever you visualize retirement to be, don't just jump into it like a cannonball into the pool. Mm-hmm. Step into it slowly to make sure you're going to like that, so you can still have that purpose in retirement that we a lot of times establish and anchor to our jobs and our career.
You're telling me you've been swimming with Tim Kulhanek? He's a cannonballer.
I thought he was a belly flopper. We can't talk about Tim. He's not here to defend himself.
He's not here to defend himself. He'll be popping onto the show here pretty soon. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. You do need to kind of stress test not just your financial plan, but by gosh, what's going to happen afterward. And I do feel bad for those who haven't thought about this, Mr. Gove, because there are some emotional adjustments.
Yeah, there definitely are. You don't have to get up as early, right? So that sounds great.
Yeehaw.
But, you get a month in and now you're sleeping till noon. Maybe that shouldn't be the plan. And now you're depressed and all of the things that come around with that without having purpose, Mm-hmm. I think that's really important, just to have some purpose, whether that's volunteering. Like John said, maybe pickleball is your thing. Jeremy's a good pickleball player. He's the pickleballer in our office.
Is he?
He is. But having a hobby or something you're doing to give back to the community, I think is really important. And like John said, plan that out before you get there. I've talked about this before, but I had a client that they had a camper, but they would camp on the weekends. They decided they were going to sell their house and go live in the camper. Oh. And I tried to encourage them to, give it a year, maybe go live in your camper for a year, but keep your house. They didn't. Thankfully, they enjoyed it. Otherwise, that would have kind of been a disaster since they didn't have a home to come back to. But anything that you can do to kind of protect yourself in retirement from making massive financial decisions that it's hard to come back from, I think is a good idea.
Well, it seems to me like this structural shock is not just emotional or financial. It's both of them. Because we are going to talk about the financial, could be financial stress shock or structure shock. But somebody said to me recently, Jeff and John, that if somebody's relying on you, like you're the captain of the pickleball team, or you're the lady who arranges the other ladies who clean the church on Friday, whatever it is.
It is. And I do agree. I think we're all built differently. So it might be different things. I think about my mom. She's retired and she was a nurse. So she lives in a 55 plus condo area right now. And she's like the nurse for the neighborhood.
Oh,
right? I mean, if anybody gets sick, call Ruth or go down and have Ruth check on you.
Right. And get a Band-Aid.
Or their families are sick. Like it's extended. She should start a little clinic over there, I think.
She should.
But that's her love language. Like that's how she cares for people. That's kind of where her identity was in that caregiver. So find what that is for you. Maybe it's not that. Maybe it's you're good at fixing cars. Whatever it is, figure that out. And we talked about earlier, giving back to the community. That's a really good way to give back and use the skills that God gave you to improve your neighborhood, improve your community.
Sure. It's a good idea, and like you said, John, to get a jump on things, because even if you're in a couple and you both have, you're relying on one another in retirement, well, we're going to go do XYZ, XYZ, and then you lose that person to an accident, disease, whatever, then there you are. Now you have to reach yourself out of that kind of depressing zone and figure out what you're going to do. It's just, I don't know. I can't stress it enough. Don't you both agree? It's a good idea to get it out in front of things in general.
Yeah, it is. And once the first person in that couple passes, unfortunately, how are you going to fill that void that in that relationship? And then retirement, like Jeff was saying, then retirement, if you're sleeping until noon, well, think if you don't have that other person there with you anymore, now what are you going to do? So it's important to have, besides just your couple, have those relationships as well in retirement, because that void from going to work and your friends from work, you're not going to see them every day unless you deliberately make the attempt to see them.
Sure.
The other thing that I would add is, even before they're gone, like if you think about, let's say your husband and wife and you're both working, so you see each other a few hours a day, right? You get up, maybe you have breakfast or coffee together in the morning. Then you go different places, right? And then after work, you come back and maybe you have supper together. You spend a few hours in the afternoon. Well, when you're both retired, now you're spending all day, every day together. And, I've talked to some couples. There's one I can that comes to mind that they retired, and the husband started going into the kitchen and rearranging the cabinets. And that's her kitchen. That's not his kitchen. That's her kitchen. And she said, one of us is going back to work and I'm not going back to work. So read between the lines there. So,
oh my golly.
So the point is it's good to have things, and I think things that you do together, but just for your sanity purposes, spending, we know you love each other and that's great, but do you want to spend every waking hour with the same person, having different things that you go do, whether it's coffee with the guys or quilting, whatever it is with the ladies or the guys can quilt, I suppose. I think that's important too.
Yeah. It's that emotional change. Just like I said, what you're going to do with your day now that you're going to work, maybe you start spending a little bit more time. So it's just not we're spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week together. So it's that cannonball into the pool. So
sure.
I just got a visual of Tim doing it.
Of Tim going, pow. It's kind of like a modern retirement. It's the retirement compass. You got to hit all the points on the compass, but certainly that planning, it needs to include a holistic view, which is what you do, Jeff, emotionally, socially, and financially. What in the world are we going to do in retirement? So I just thought we could go over that talk because so many people are still hitting that age, 10,000 people a day. We're still in peak 65 for crying out loud, fellas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it starts with a plan, right? We talk about that all the time on the show, having a plan. But our job as financial advisors is to give you peace of mind. So as far as your finances go, so having an income plan, having an investment plan, a tax plan, healthcare and legacy, if you have all those things covered, that's going to help give you peace of mind as you go into retirement. The things we can't do for you, unless I guess you want to come do some service stuff for us at the office, like mow the yard or whatever. That's stuff that we can't help you with. So those are things that you have to do on your own. So we always talk about the retirement isn't just as easy as, I'm going to retire next Friday. There's a lot of things that go into it from the financial side that take time. And there's a lot of things on the personal side, like we're talking about today, that takes time.
Right.
So you need to have a plan.
Very good. Let's get that plan put together. 866-295-5146. 866-295-5146. Call Stonebridge Wealth Systems. We'll be right back to talk about your money.
Is your retirement being eaten up by financial termites like hidden fees, inflation, and avoidable taxes? Call today for a complimentary financial review so we can help you root out these retirement killers.
Age is just a number, and in my case, it's getting to be an impressive number. But welcome back to Retirement Compass Radio Show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. Jackie Selby and I have John Ternus from the Grand Island office, his first appearance on the big show, and of course, founding grandfather, just teasing there, Jeff Gove from the Kearney office.
He makes me refer to him as the Godfather.
Oh, the Godfather of Kearney, huh?
I prefer that over grandfather.
No, I'm just your grandfather didn't all the benefits.
There you go.
That's what they're saying about Social Security, right? Are we going to be grandfathered in, Jeff?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Everybody cross their fingers. We'll see what happens. But like we mentioned last segment, every day in America, about 10,000, 11,000 people turn 65 years old. We're the end of the baby boomers. I like to call us, I'm not 65 yet, but I'm pretty soon. I'd like to call us Generation Jones because we're not really baby boomers. Have you noticed this? I just saw John's face go, I don't know. What are you? What are you people? Have you noticed
You're
that?
not a baby boomer?
Well, it's technically. I feel like but those are my older brothers and sisters. They're baby boomers,
You're too young to be a baby boomer.
Right. We're here at the end. We had all the things.
You just made your own group or what?
Yeah, it's called Generation Jones, I think.
I've never.
I don't think that's
one.
A thing.
No,
it is. I think
Jackie,
it is.
come on.
Those born in 1965. 1956 to 64. Jen Jones.
That's a really small generation.
Well, it's specific for sure.
Is it one of those micro generations?
Micro generation. That's it. That's it, John Ternus. Yeah. We're a micro generation.
Okay.
Don't encourage.
Well, no, you have the Gen Xers and then you have the millennials, but then there's Xennials, which is like a micro generation where we're good with technology, but we're still cynical like the Gen Xers.
Okay.
So
this is how I feel about my generation, Jones, is that we're not Gen Xers. And we're not a baby boomer. We're not hippies, like the older baby boomers. You know what I mean? Is it classic rock or are we Billy Idol? You get where I'm going.
I get where you're reaching.
I think we're just going to start dancing by ourselves here pretty soon.
Oh, gosh. All right, here we go. Let's clear up a little bit of financial information for our peak 65ers. Jeff, all my savings should be in my 401k or IRA, right or wrong?
Maybe. Everybody's situation is different.
Okay.
If all of your savings is in 401ks or IRAs, I would encourage you to go to stonebridgetaxbill.com because all of that money is tax deferred. So what does deferred mean, Jackie?
It has not been taxed yet.
It means later, right? Uh-huh. So it doesn't mean tax-free. It means you got to deduct it when you put the money in, and then it grows tax-deferred. You're going to pay the tax later. So
you got to pay the piper, baby.
So it could be it could be alarming, when you see how much tax you're going to pay on that money. So I would encourage you, again, go to stonebridgetaxbill.com. Takes you a couple minutes to put your information in there, and it'll tell you what the tax implications are going to be over your lifetime on that IRA money. There are other options. You can do Roth IRAs, Roth 401k, depending on your income.
Okay.
But that isn't necessarily right for everyone either. So everybody's situation is different. Doing all of something and recommending that to everyone is probably not the best idea.
Yeah. Even though you
John.
may not have had a plan when you're putting that money in the 401k, there needs to be a plan to take it out of there. Otherwise, it's going to be at the mercy of the IRS saying you have to take out this much, and that could do something to your taxes, and you'll pay a large amount more than what you would have if you had planned to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point.
Yes.
An analogy would be, when you're getting to retirement, you're at the top of the mountain, right? And there are cliffs coming off of that mountain. And if you don't have a plan from a tax perspective, you're falling off that cliff without a rope, because we call them a tax time bomb. When you look at the taxes over your lifetime, the implications that can have on your Social Security, there's a lot of different things that go into that. So having a plan, having a rope that's going to ease you down the mountain instead of just falling off the cliff, I think is a good idea.
Very good. Yes, very good. I'm sorry, John. I'm going to give the phone number. That's okay. Go ahead.
I just think so many retirees have anchored to that point of taxes are going to be less in retirement. It's not uncommon that we'll have individuals come in and they're retired and they're like, I'm living on my Social Security alone and I'm qualifying for the homestead exemption, but they have this looming storm cloud on the horizon, and that's that tax time bomb coming later.
Here's the number for Stonebridge Wealth Systems, 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Now, John, I was thinking to myself, I'm kind of extreme. I would like the IRS to think I have no assets by the time my RMDs kick in. And so I'll have is this kind of a possible thing is that tax deferred status that I want to achieve, or what's it called?
Well, it kind of scared me a little bit thinking the IRS has no. So I'm like, oh, no, we're not going into the tax evasion realm.
No.
So that was my first alarm there to kick it off.
I was thinking of converting it all beforehand.
Yeah, so that's what we do. We manage the tax bracket in those early years in retirement when you may be qualifying for the homestead exemption, so you're not paying property taxes, but maybe it makes sense to pay those property taxes to kind of diffuse that storm cloud on the horizon or that tax time bomb, so we're not paying more in taxes over our lifetime. Another thing to consider too is if you're looking at leaving that legacy to your heirs, it's a lot more efficient to inherit a Roth IRA than a traditional IRA or 401k. Because a lot of times if your kids are going to inherit those assets, they're at their top peak earning years when you pass away. And so then the IRS will actually get a larger chunk of your inherited funds that you want to pass to your children.
Sure. I think that bears repeating. If you just leave pre-retiree or retiree, just plan on your legacy being that big fat IRA that's never been taxed. Then you're leaving a really big potentially tax burden to the kids and grandkids, right?
Yeah, and if you call in, we have a report that we can put together for you. It's not something, if you call in, we can't just send it to you. It's something that we have to put together for you, but it's called Legacy Done Right.
Oh, good.
So what we're doing with this report is looking at, after we do that, stonebridgetaxbill.com and see how much you have in IRAs, what's the tax liability. Now we're looking at what options do we have to diffuse this ticking tax time bomb. Because to John's point, when you pass away, it used to be your kids could take that money out over their lifetime. So they would set up a beneficiary IRA. And a lot of our listeners have probably done this in the past, and they're taking required distributions over the years and slowly depleting that account. Well, they've changed that. So now your kids will have 10 years to take that money out. So if you passed away today, and you have 2 kids, and let's say you have $1 million in your IRA, and it's 50-50, they each get 500,000, they're going to have to take out a minimum of 50,000 a year to deplete that account. And that's with no growth, right? So we have to take out at least 10% a year. And the other problem with that is your kids are probably in their highest income earning years, right? So,
right, like John said,
they've been promoted and, they're getting close to retirement, and now they have this additional income. So that 50,000 in that situation would be stacked on top of their earned income. So if they made, 95,000 or 100,000, now that 50,000 is stacked on there, where they could have been in the 12% tax bracket if they were married. Now they're going to be in the 22% tax bracket on that money. So having a plan for that is crucial. Taxes and healthcare are your two biggest expenses in retirement. If you look at how much you'll pay over your lifetime. So yeah, we think it's really important to have a plan, and just call us and we can help you get set up with that Legacy Done Right report.
Sure. Legacy Done Right. I like that. And this is not to the exclusion of the other features that you offer, including StonebridgeTaxBill.com. But if you want that legacy report, it's 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. To reach Stonebridge Wealth Systems, I see that Tim is turning up to the green room. So in just a moment, we're going to shift over and see if we can get Tim involved here. But I have a feeling then poor John will never get a word in edgewise. So I'm going to ask John one more thing. Okay. What do you think people's chief concern is in retirement, John? Running out of money, or living too long for the money, or what do you think?
Running out of money. That's the number one concern I see with clients coming across. They're just scared to run out of money. And I love when we're working with our clients and we're like, yeah, you're planning on spending this much, but actually you did a really good job saving. So let's dream a little bit bigger. Think of what you want to do. Maybe you want to take a little bit longer vacation with the family, but whatever that may be. And look, here, I ran the numbers. You're still fine. So let's enjoy your life. You worked hard for it. So running out of money, though, is the number one concern that we see. And
sorry.
And part of that also is that mindset shift from going from accumulating to the decumulation phase of, okay, it's okay if my account balances start to go down because we saved and we're not living forever on this world. So
I think people do get stuck, don't they, in the buzz that you get from seeing your balances go up.
Yeah, it's a lot better than seeing it go down.
Yes, but
we don't get a lot of calls when the market's going up, but occasionally we'll get them when it's going down, like we've seen
if you've got a good Stonebridge plan under your belt, then these things are not going to concern you in that same way. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Stonebridge Wealth Systems also on YouTube, and the YouTube channel is Stonebridge Wealth Systems. Here's a little QR code. You could point your phone towards that, should you like to. But we'd love to hear from you. 866-295-5146. Be right back.
As Americans, we strive for better. From a better house to a better career to a better life for our children and grandchildren. Better has become the American way. When it comes to your retirement, what does better mean to you? Does it mean more income, a flexible lifestyle, better solutions? A better retirement begins with a financial plan. To get your complimentary written financial plan, call the number you see here. You only retire once. This is your opportunity to plan for better.
So let's talk about the big A word. Do you guys want to? Because sometimes people think in the financial world, if they had a grandma or an aunt or an uncle or somebody who had an annuity a long time ago, they think their money's locked up forever. I'm never getting it back. But boy, there's sure some favorable conditions right now to either refinance an old, right? John, refinance an old annuity.
Right. Yeah, there is. And like Jeff said, it all depends on how that annuity is written, what rates you're getting, what the cap is on it.
All right.
Is it fixed or is it variable? What are the fees? That's what we dive into and look at each annuity. So maybe it is time to replace that with a better annuity that's going to be more advantageous for them. And maybe, because if you think about what the purpose is behind an annuity, it's to ensure your income in retirement, right?
Right.
Well, how much insurance do you need? And it all depends on how much you've saved. So there's going to be a different optimal amount for everybody for a different annuity, or just and some people, an annuity may not be a good fit for them if they've done a really good job saving and they have pensions. You don't need to insure that income. So.
Right. It depends. It's not suitable for everyone. What, you were going to say something, Jeff?
Yeah. Another use would be to grow your money safely. And if you have an annuity, I would recommend looking into it because, here recently, even the last few years, rates have gone up quite a bit. So you can get, if you have an index annuity, they have a cap on the S&P 500, meaning they limit how much you can make. Well, the last few years, those caps have gone up a lot where, some were like 12%, some were 13%, where you could make 13%, but if the market goes down, you don't lose anything. Well, I've seen the reason I say you should look at it is because here recently I've seen a few that the cap was 1.7%. On top of that, the fee was 1.3%.
Well, what fun is that?
Yeah, well, I mean, so you can make 0.4% if everything goes perfectly right. That's not a great way to invest money. But there's alternatives. There are options for you. So when you talk about refinancing the annuity, it's taking that 1.7% cap and moving that to another company that's going to give you 6% or 8% cap instead. Even if you have surrender charges, if you bought an annuity a couple years ago, there are annuities that give you a bonus up front to cover any of those surrender penalties. So you can still upgrade that annuity to a potentially higher rate. You also need to know, though, you're going to restart that surrender schedule. So
I see.
You still have to be careful, but again, it's definitely worth looking at if you own an annuity today.
Sounds like 866-295-5146 to reach Stonebridge. And our show is Retirement Compass Radio Show. You can find this anywhere that you listen to podcasts. I edit them myself and put the best bits of every show into our podcasts. And that's available anywhere you get your podcast material, including, but not limited to, Apple or Spotify. Now, Mr. Kulhanek, all annuities are the same, Mr. Kulhanek.
Yeah.
Next question.
Okay.
Got any more brain busters for me?
Tell us they're not, because I don't think they are.
Yeah, they're not. But here's what I want to talk about. So Nobel Prize winning researcher Robert, or is it Richard? I think Richard Thaler wrote a book. And I can't remember. I was looking to see what year it was. He won the 2017 Nobel Memorial Prize in Economic Sciences for his contributions to behavioral economics. Okay, Richard Thaler. All right. He wrote this book called The Annuity Puzzle. And the crux of it is, based off of the behavior of retirees, they should favor annuities as part of their retirement strategy. In fact, a recent study that was published by, I think there's a Retirement Income Institute called Guaranteed Income, a License to Spend. In a survey, they asked retirees if they would prefer specifically for discretionary purposes, so discretionary spending, things that they don't need that they want instead. Would they rather have a $140,000 lump sum to use for the rest of their life on those discretionary things, or $10,000 guaranteed for the rest of their life? Now, Jeff, John, why did they use $140,000 and $10,000?
Would that be the distribution rate that the annuity would provide for lifetime
Exactly,
income?
the actuarial equivalent. John nailed it. I knew Jeff wouldn't get it, but that's why we have John on the show today. So thank you. It's funny, but it's true. It's great. So
Tim started talking, so I started daydreaming.
Tuning out.
You're over here thinking of cannonballing into the swimming pool.
So 60% of the survey respondents said, oh, well, I would definitely rather have $10,000 a year guaranteed because it's guaranteed. What percentage of retirees, Jeff and John, do you think own income annuities of some kind?
28? I'll answer.
Jackie, pretty good guess. It's less than that. It's like somewhere between 10 and 20%. So there's a disconnect. And that's why he wrote the annuity puzzle. He said everybody would rather have the security, the peace of mind knowing, not everybody, the majority of people would rather have the peace of mind knowing that they have guaranteed income, yet they elect not to do it. And what it comes down to is behavioral finance, right? Part of the reason why retirees tend to underspend. So the Guaranteed Income License to Spend study by David Blanchett, who is former top researcher for Morningstar, found that retirees spend maybe around 75% of their spendable income. In other words, they intentionally spend less than they could without having to worry about running out of money. Part of it is a rational response to the unknowns of longevity and unknown healthcare costs later in life.
Right.
And part of it's just a straight up irrationality saying, oh, well, I don't like seeing my balance go down. In fact, of the respondents of the survey, they found that 2/3 of them would not spend more than the income their portfolio has generated. So if their portfolio, they had $1 million and their portfolio generated 4%, 2/3 of them, 67%, let's say, wouldn't spend more than the $40,000 generated by the portfolio because they didn't want to see the balance drop. Okay, so let's take it a step further, go another level deeper in that question and say, why is that? So is it because you don't want to spend money because you have specific bequest goals? You want to leave money to church, charity, children, grandkids, foundations? Like, is it because you have specific goals when it comes to leaving certain dollar amounts? Only 1/3 of the 2/3 that weren't spending more than their income said yes, which means they were just psychologically unable to actually spend their money, even though the whole reason they saved the money was to do what with it, guys?
Spend it.
See, Jackie's stealing all your thunder, guys. You guys get quicker. So my point on annuities is I'm 100% like on the same track as Jeff and John. Do they make sense? Sometimes, yeah, in certain occasions. But unfortunately, we have an epidemic of retirees having a lower satisfaction in retirement because of this cognitive type of challenge they have. Not that kind of made it a little bit wrong, but this mental block, if you will, where they refuse to spend more money than what their portfolio generates, even though they could and not have a shortfall later in life if they just worked with somebody like a financial planner, like one of our experienced advisors here at Stonebridge, who could show them that and give them that license to spend. That's what we want to do. And maybe that involves an annuity. Maybe it doesn't. But at the end of the day, we need to give every dollar a job. So that way you're not trying to make every single dollar do everything, which is what too many annuities that I see sold to people promise to do. And it becomes a jack of all trades and a master of absolutely nothing. So my, I guess, message to our listeners is we want to be intentional. So whether it's with our money, if this is an income strategy, let's make sure it's really good at income. If it's growth, let's make sure that it excels and has the ability to truly provide you with growth. But everything has its own lane. So we're being intentional. It's not by mistake, so there's no surprises. I can't promise you anything other than when you come in and meet with one of our advisors, you will leave with one thing, and that is clarity. And that's what we think, whether it's an annuity or anything else, you deserve.
866-295-5146. Call Stonebridge. Wow, that was quite the speech. I want to stand up and clap.
The work never seems to end until the day it finally does. After nearly a lifetime on the job, you should be rewarded for all the time you spent working. Whether that's crossing off items on your bucket list, learning a new passion, or rekindling the love of an old one. After all, life isn't over when you stop working. It's the start of an all-new chapter. The one where you're the writer and you get to choose how your story will go. A way to achieve that is by having a clear financial plan to sustain your golden years. The biggest fear most retirees have is if they'll have enough money to maintain the lifestyle they've always enjoyed. Having a plan to help protect you against the curveballs life often throws will help to maintain your lifestyle. Call today to get your free written financial plan so you may live every day to the fullest and enjoy the retirement of your dreams.
We're so glad to have you here on the radio program, Retirement Compass Radio Show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. And represented, we've got a big crowd here in the studio today. From the Grand Island office, we have John Ternus. From the Lincoln office, we have Tim Kulhanek. And in Kearney, it's Jeff Gove. Now, what are we going to talk about, Tim? I thought that we would talk about popcorn, but that's just me being hungry.
Yeah, no, I could hear the rumbling.
My tum-tum.
Very hungry. Yeah, why don't you tone it down there, Jackie?
Sorry.
So here's what I thought we'd talk about. So, this life's consistent inconsistencies. History doesn't repeat itself, but it tends to rhyme. So here we are, and we're dealing with more volatility and uncertainty and conflict, and we probably have a lot of folks that are listening to this thinking, yeah, what does this mean? With the conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran, and is it going to expand into a broader conflict? And something about the Straits of Hormuz and oil. And so I just wanted to drop a couple tidbits of information that I read that I thought was helpful, because some people, if you've been alive long enough, you might try to say, oh, it often rhymes, this history thing. So I'm going to think back to the last time that maybe some big event happened that impacted oil, like the 1973 oil crisis / embargo. And I remember what happened then, and global oil prices surged 300%. And what if that happens again? They went from $3 per barrel to $12 and on and on and on. Well, here's what I'd like to tell you. The U.S. is now the world's top oil producer. So things have changed drastically. Year-to-date Brent crude prices are up substantial, but like 36% as of a couple weeks ago. And Wall Street has been calling for like $80 to $100 a barrel, trading range for Brent crude. And if that's accurate, that would cap the upside at about 60%. Still a lot, but nothing like what we saw back in 1973. Now, even more important, in my opinion, is the fact that a lot has changed over the decades in the U.S. and U.S. consumers, this was as of 2025, U.S. consumers spending on energy fell to historic lows. In fact, it was just 3.7% of all spending in 2025, which reflects, again, improved energy efficiency and shifts in the economy away from things like manufacturing and, relatively stable oil prices when we compare to what we saw in the 70s and 80s. Now, here's what I want to leave you with. You got the U.S., looks like the latest report is now producing approximately 13 million barrels of oil per day, compared to Iran, which was producing around 3 to 4 million barrels of oil per day. And so we're 3 to 4 more times oil in Iran. Could provide a stronger buffer for supply. We don't get any of our oil supplies from Iran, obviously. Mainly goes to China. Now, back in like the 80s, the U.S. was still above Iran, but it's really, the gap has really exploded here recently. Maybe a different story for natural gas, but when it comes to conflicts, a lot of times you can see short-term volatility, but I don't want you to let that head fake you into making poor decisions and letting your emotions dictate how you invest your money. So think about it this way, and this is what I'll close with.
All right.
Let's go back to the Iran-Iraq war back in 1980. Within 1 month of the beginning of that, it looks like the S&P 500 was actually up 1.2. 6 months later, it was down 2.5. 12 months later, it was actually down even more. It was down 14%. So is that a trend that we have to think that could happen here? Well, maybe. But then you look at Iraq's invasion of Kuwait in 1990. Short term, 1 month later, it was down 8.2. A year later, up 17.6. Kosovo NATO bombing. A year later, the S&P was up 7.5%. Beginning of the Iraq war, year later, market's up 34%. Russia annexing Crimea, a year later, 9%. Bombing of Syria in 2017, year later, 14.9%. Hamas attacks on Israel in 23, a year later, 47%.
Wow. If
you look at all these different conflicts, I got several: Yom Kippur war, oil embargoes, Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. You look at all those, I don't know, there's a dozen or more, probably 15 on here. The average return for the S&P 500 a year later is positive 10.3%. Now, that's not specific advice. I'm not making a forecast. But what we do at Stonebridge is we model and adjust. So when things happen, rather than you having to go this part of this phase of retirement alone thinking, what do I do? And laying awake at night wondering how this is going to impact my retirement. That's why you lay those concerns at our doorstep, right? That's why we have a team of experienced advisors that is dedicated to navigating you to and through retirement. And if you feel like, I'd like a co-pilot, somebody that I can rely on, that's a trusted ally in my corner when things like this happen, I'd simply encourage you to give our office a call today.
866-295-5146, 866-295-5146.
Did you ever think your retirement would be shared with our government? it's true. Your traditional 401k, IRA, pension, or similar retirement accounts are like a partnership with the IRS. Simply put, they want their tax dollars, and you have them. With our latest tax calculator, you can plug in your own numbers while sitting at home. To find out what your future tax liability could be, scan the QR code or go to stonebridgetaxbill.com.
Well, we can't call it questions and answers because it's really scenarios. They're general in nature. So here we go on Retirement Compass Radio Show with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. Social Security timing. Whose favorite subject is Social Security? Those who are approaching claiming it. That's whose favorite subject it is. Someone turning 62, Mr. Gove, this year, eligible for about $1,900 per month in Social Security. But if they wait till 67, that jumps to $2,700. They're healthy but nervous about missing out if something happens, like we not get it. I don't know. They have $600,000 saved. Just general question. How should someone like this think through the trade-off between taking it early versus waiting?
Well, thank you for the question, Jackie. What they need to do is go through the Retirement Compass process, because that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to help you put together an income plan. When I look at income planning, or when our team looks at income planning, we're looking at Social Security. How do we optimize it? I want you to take it as early as possible, as long as your plan works. So I'll give you an example that I'm working on right now. I've got a younger couple. He's early 50s. They're going to retire here in the next few years. And when we looked at the plan, they've got a pension. They need about $5,300 a month. They've both got pensions that'll be about $5,000 a month combined. Their Social Security, if they waited until full retirement, is going to be about $6,000 a month if they wait till full retirement. So for them, I'm going to recommend that they draw it early, because why wait? You know, even if they just invested that money, they're going to have all the income that they need just from their pension alone. So why let that government money just sit there and grow? Because, and they're nervous about missing out, in your question, but what if they died at 66 and they were waiting until 67?
And they got nothing then.
Right. So everybody's situation is different. Don't hear me say you should just draw it at 62, and don't hear me say you should wait till full retirement. What I'm telling you is everybody's situation is different. That's why we developed the process that we did. We take you through income planning. Then we look at your investments to see, okay, that's the income that you need. How do we help you achieve those goals? How do we help you go on the vacation that you want to go on? Spending time with your kids, whatever it is for you, how do we make that happen? Then tax planning, it's a huge opportunity right now. How do we pay as little to the IRS as possible? How do we disinherit the IRS when we get to estate planning? Healthcare planning, how do we pay, keep your estate whole if something did happen, you have to go to a home. I know your question is on Social Security, but these all work so closely together that you have to have that whole plan.
Such good information, and especially when it's worded like that, healthy but nervous. We don't know what the future holds for us. So 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Call Stonebridge Wealth Systems. We're also up on the big, what? You guys are giggling, up on the big YouTube.
I think Tim has something that he'd like to say.
Oh, sorry. Tim was waving his hand.
The guy's been raising his hand.
Okay. Hi, Tim. Sorry.
You won't call on me.
I'm calling on you now, Mr. Kulhanek.
I just wanted to quickly add that, I agree with everything Jeff said, but the thing that people sometimes get in their mind is they're going to win when it comes to Social Security. It's a zero-sum game. There's no prize for being the first to draw or the last.
Okay.
The only way you win with Social Security is if you file intentionally. So it's part of a systematic plan as to, hey, I'm filing at this age, and here is why. This is why this makes the most sense for my unique financial situation. Because some people, if you got longevity in your family, there's a lot of different variables to consider. But that's the only thing I wanted to add is, a decision in one area can have a profound impact on prior decisions that were made in other areas, which, again, to reiterate what Jeff said, that's why we designed the compass the way we did. That's why when people come in and they're like, well, I only want to do a couple of these things, and then I'm going to just kind of do the rest on my own. Sometimes I tell them, well, this is your financial life. And like, how important is this to you? Because it's really important to me. We're very serious about what we're doing here. We have a lot of fun, but there's a reason why, Stonebridge is growing the way it does, is because I think people, when they come in, they see that it's a different way of planning. It's not about selling some sort of product. Look, if you don't need, or can't use the services that we provide, I got good news. Like, we're not going to even offer them to you. We're not going to ask you to participate. Why? Because there's plenty of people. There's way more people out there that need our help than we could possibly ever provide and extend the help to. Okay. So what we're looking for in doing this show is to provide valuable information, timely, that covers the topics that matter to people that they're trying to get information on, but also to find people who are like, what, I need to take this seriously. I need to make sure that I'm not just kind of planning for my future, for a successful financial future, but that I have a harbor captain pilot, right? Somebody who's landed the plane, guided a ship, whatever analogy you want to use, before, and can do it for me as well.
866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. All right, I'm going to direct this towards you, John.
Oh.
I know it's a tax bomb for RMDs. We talked about this in an earlier segment here. 72-year-old person is just, generalization, has about $1.4 million in a traditional IRA and just learned that their RMD is going to push them into a higher tax bracket. So they don't need all this income and hate the idea of sending more money to the IRS. So would you talk to them about Roth conversions at this point, or are we talking about QCDs or what?
So they're 72, so they're hitting the RMDs next year, 73, or if they're 1960 or later, 75. So they still have a little bit of time. And you got to kind of look at what's important to them. Maybe they have charitable organizations that they are very important. So then we can look at doing QCDs, the qualified charitable distributions, to go to the charity. But there still may be an opportunity to do some Roth conversions, just depending on how much they have to take out. But there's a very specific order once they hit that required minimum distribution age in which they have to take money out of their IRA in this situation. So there may still be an opportunity, and it all goes back to kind of what's important to them. Do they want that legacy and their heirs to receive that IRA money in a tax-efficient manner? Or do they want to give more to the charities that matter to them as well? So that's where we can sit down with them, look at them, help them evaluate what's important to them, and then we can lay it down in a clear plan on how they can disinherit the IRS as much as possible while still meeting their goals of giving to charities, doing Roth conversions, and limiting that tax liability over their life.
Good. It all starts with that plan with Stonebridge Wealth Systems. Tim, are you raising your hand? I don't see you raising your hand. 866-295-5146. 866-295-5146. No, he's raising both hands. That means something altogether different. All right, let's move on to this one. Selling a highly appreciated home. Oh, this is an interesting subject matter. Retired couple bought their home way back in the day, decades ago, for $180,000, and they could sell it now for a whole lot more, up into the sevens. So they're thinking about downsizing to free up cash. What are the implications here on tax gains and interest rates, and how does this fit into the long-term plan, Tim?
Should be minimal, and John might even be able to help me on this one, but like every person gets a $250,000 exemption, I believe, on the sale of primary residence. So if we're talking about a primary residence and there's a couple and they're married, you're talking about a $500,000 exemption on gains. And so if they bought it for $180,000, you add $500,000 to that, you're at $680,000. If they sell it for $7,000, there's $20,000 of potential gains, would be my read on it.
Yep, that's correct, Tim, with that. So a married couple have $500,000. The requirements to get that $500,000 tax-free capital gain there would be living there two out of the last 5 years. So as their primary residence. So if they're not sure they want to downsize and they want to keep that house, they could rent it out for 2 years and then sell it in that 5th year and still meet that 2 out of the last 5 and get that free $500,000 tax-free gain there. So So
Very
they have
good.
options.
Options. You've got options. 866-295-5146. Call the team. It doesn't cost anything to sit down and talk about getting a portfolio look here. 866-295-5146. Of course, that includes your home. Pension versus lump sum, Mr. Gove. What if somebody from a utility company could take their monthly pension for $2,800 a month for life, or a lump sum of $540,000? What do you say to someone? I mean, married, they're both 66, worried about inflation eating away at a fixed income. So, do you have any general advice?
I do have some general advice. And yeah, I'm going to tell you again, everybody's situation is different. So
Okay.
you need to know what all of your options are, especially with these pensions, because a lot of times you'll have, life only. You'll have life with 5 years certain, life with 10 years certain, life with 15 years certain, joint and survivor 50%, 75%, 100%, lots of different options, a lump sum potentially. So you just need to understand what all of these options are and what the difference is in income is between all those options. So if you didn't educate yourself and you took the life only because it's the highest amount, that could be a problem if you die early, because the reason it's the highest amount is because if you die after you receive the first check, the pension keeps the lump sum. So there's no death benefit to your beneficiaries. That could be not a great thing for your spouse. If they were anticipating they're going to continue that income, could be quite a surprise in a time where you don't really need big financial surprises. So the other thing that we want to look at is, how much income is it producing? So based on, if I could get the $540,000 in a lump sum, what percentage of income am I getting from that? So with the numbers that you gave, that's between 6 and 7% in income that 540 is producing. So then I want to look at, are there other options that would produce the same amount of money but have other benefits? So your $540,000, if you turn that on as a pension, whether if it's single life or joint, and it produces $2,800 a month, when both of you die, if it's joint, that income stops. So there's no death benefit to your kids. We've talked about annuities on here. When you use an income annuity, if you both die early, there could still be a lump sum death benefit of whatever's left. It would be taxable to your kids, but taxable $540,000 is better than zero, not taxable. Mm-hmm. So you have to weigh all of those things out. Most of the time, it makes sense to keep the pension and take income from it. But there are those times where it doesn't make sense. Maybe you could live on your Social Security alone. So we want to just grow this money and leave it to your kids. Well, if you take it as an income stream, and you pass away, that there is no money left over. So you have to weigh all of the options.
Okay, we need to weigh the options. 866-295-5146, 866-295-5146. Stonebridge Wealth Systems bringing you this show, Retirement Compass Radio Show. Fellas, thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure and an honor, Jackie. And
fun.
I just want to, since we have 5 minutes left, I'll fill the air with
How about the closing music at least?
Yeah, you want some of that? Hey, yeah. John, get your groove on.
That won't let me play over it. So there we go.
Too bad for Jeff.